In this video, I'm going to be showing you the 5 most common PPC mistakes that I see amongst Amazon sellers. By the end of this video, you're going to know the 5 most common PPC mistakes and exactly how to avoid them. My name's Jake Evans and I've worked with dozens of Amazon sellers and audited over 100 accounts. And these 5 common problems here, they're always cropping up, resulting in sellers losing thousands of dollars every single month. The good thing is they're super easy to resolve and I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So let's just jump straight into it. Mistake number 1, using too many keywords within an ad group and campaign. Now, to be honest, this is probably the most common mistake that I see amongst Amazon sellers. And what happens is it results in a few or a select number of keywords generating all the impressions and clicks, resulting in the remaining keywords not seeing any daylight. So the way that I imagine it is if the keywords are plants within a plant pot within the ad group or campaign. So the plants are the keywords and the pot is the campaign or the ad group. So if you imagine we have, let's say, 10 or 20 plants within a plant pot and we pour a select amount of water into the plant pot, being the ad spend for the campaign. What's going to happen is the water isn't going to be evenly distributed amongst all of the plants. Maybe 5 or 10% of those plants are going to get more water than the remaining plants. What's going to happen over time is that will start to compound. The plants that are getting more water will grow bigger and stronger and they'll grow more roots. And then eventually over time, it's going to result in the other plants dying because they're just not getting sufficient water and nutrients, because the 1 or 2 plants within the plant pot that were able to get more water in the first place is just completely taken over. Now I think you can draw a parallel there with the water and plant pot with Amazon keywords and campaigns. So the same thing applies with keywords within a campaign. 5 to 10% of the keywords will generate clicks and impressions in the first place, and then Amazon will start to allocate more spend towards those keywords, resulting in the remaining keywords not seeing any impressions or clicks. Now you can test this yourself. If you go into a campaign that has more than 10 keywords, for example, just take a look. Are all the keywords within that campaign evenly being distributed spend? Do they all have clicks and impressions? If not, there's a good chance that some of the keywords within that ad group are throttling the impressions and clicks for the remaining keywords in there. So now, if you've established campaigns that have too many keywords in them, what do you actually do about that? How do you go about resolving this? That's what we're going to jump into next. But before we jump into that, we need to understand what a good campaign structure actually is and what type of keywords we should be including in those campaigns. Because we've identified that too many keywords within a campaign is a bad thing, but what we haven't put a label on is how many keywords is too many keywords. Now, to be honest, the jury's still out on how many keywords is actually too many keywords. However, in my opinion, you shouldn't be having more than 10 keywords within a campaign. So usually if you have more than 10 keywords within a campaign, there's a good chance that some of the keywords within that campaign are being throttled. So as a good rule of thumb, I would say no more than 10 keywords within a campaign. The next thing that we need to understand is what kind of keywords can we include in together, because we don't want to be creating new campaigns and then running into the exact same problems. Now, typically keywords with a super high search volume will just throttle the keywords in a campaign that have super low search volume. So you don't want to be including keywords that have high search volume with keywords that have low search volume in your campaigns. Now, a ratio that I like to use is a 5-to-1 ratio. What I mean by that is I don't want to be including keywords that have more than a 5-to-1 ratio in the campaign. So if we have a keyword that has a search volume, a monthly search volume of 5,000, and we have another keyword in there that has a search volume of 100,000, that would be a ratio of 20-to-1. So we wouldn't want to include those 2 keywords together. So if we keep the ratio of 5-to-1, generally we won't see any keyword throttling or impression throttling within our campaigns. So 5-to-1 is a nice ratio to have. So now we've established these 2 things, here are the 3 steps that I take to eliminate these mistakes. Number 1, identifying the keywords within the ad group that have no or low impressions and clicks. So what you want to do is take note of these keywords. Now you can copy and paste them into a spreadsheet, into a Word document, it doesn't really matter. The whole point is we're just identifying the keywords at the moment and making note of them. Next is we extract the keywords from the campaign. If the keywords that we've taken note of have 0 or very, very low impressions, then we just want to go ahead and pause them from this campaign straight away. However, if they are generating some clicks, what we want to do is we want to keep them running at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to run them in 2 campaigns to begin with and run them alongside each other. And then the final step is to create the new campaigns using these keywords, and of course using good campaign structure. So having only 5 to 10 keywords per campaign and making sure that there's a search volume ratio of only 5 to 1. In the case that we didn't pause the keywords from the existing campaign, what we want to do is run the keywords alongside each other, and once the performance in the new campaign exceeds the performance from the old campaign, that's when we pause the keywords there. So that's mistake number 1, having too many keywords within a campaign. And now I've shown you exactly how you can go about eliminating this mistake, which leads me to mistake number 2, and that is making changes or adjustments too quickly. You have to become dispassionate when it comes to PPC. You can't be emotional, you have to be rational. What I always like to do is follow the data and follow the numbers. So you wouldn't see a scientist, for example, changing loads of variables as soon as the test starts and the results aren't going the way that he intends. And that's the exact same way that I imagine with PPC. We have to let the test play out, review the data and adjust accordingly. The next question that you probably have is, well, how long do we have to wait? In my opinion, you should be waiting at least 3 days. And that's because we have a 48-hour conversion attribution window from Amazon. So we have to wait those 48 hours to begin with anyway, because the data is not going to be accurate until at least 48 hours. And then we need to leave another day for a day's worth of data. So in my experience, or in my opinion, we should be leaving it for at least 3 days. However, the longer you can leave it, the better, because you're going to have more data, more statistical significance. So that's great. And this is why it's super important to be scientific or mathematical in your approach to making adjustments, because if we're using arbitrary numbers to set bids and adjust bids, then things can get very messy very quickly. And I actually did a whole video on how you can optimize your bids in a mathematically sound way. If you're interested in that, then go ahead and watch that video at the end of this video. But the main point that I'm trying to make here is don't make adjustments too quickly. Once you've set something, leave it, wait to see the data, give it sufficient amount of time, and then if you do need to make adjustments, at least you're doing it based on data and not just on how you feel. So mistake number 3 that I see, which is aiming for number 1 placement. Number 1 placement isn't always the best placement. Everyone's trying to bid for top of the page, trying to be number 1. And the way that Amazon's bidding system works as an auction is, if more and more people are bidding for that placement, then cost per clicks are going to be just going up and up and up and up. So what's going to happen is you're going to be ending up spending a stupid amount of money just for 1 click, and it's going to lead to a high ACOS. I've actually found places number 2, 3 and 4 to be much more profitable, because you're not fighting with people for top place, but you're still at the top of the page. With this being said, we still need to draw a distinction between different keywords, because we will have different intentions for different keywords. So in my opinion, we can throw these into 2 different buckets. So the first bucket is main keywords, and the second bucket is non-main keywords. So main keywords are the loss leaders. These are the keywords that you don't mind making a slight loss on, because they're either super important keywords for you and they're helping with your organic ranks, and you understand that by making 1 PPC sale now for that keyword is going to result in you making many more organic sales in the long term. The second bucket, non-main keywords, are those keywords that aren't super important like that. So your main intention is to make profit on these keywords as well. So you want a slightly lower ACOS than you do with the main keywords. For the non-main keywords, you definitely don't want to be trying to go for number 1 placement, because that's going to lead to a higher ACOS and they probably won't be profitable. Somewhat paradoxically, I found that placements lower down in the page, or even on page 2, tend to have better performance than top of the page. And my theory is that lower down in the page, people have a higher buy intent, so it leads to a higher conversion rate. So the smaller number of clicks that actually end up on your page lead to more conversions, which results in a better ACOS. So in my opinion, for non-main keywords, don't aim for number 1. Even for main keywords, maybe place 2, 3 and 4 may be better. It's just a case of testing things and seeing what performs the best. But usually placement number 1 has a higher CPC, a much higher CPC than the other placements. So going for number 1 is going to lead to less profitability. Now, mistake number 4, not using standardized nomenclature. Now, this one doesn't directly lead to a loss of money, but what it does lead to is a lack of control and clarity, which does result in a loss of money as a byproduct. So what do I mean by not having standardized nomenclature? It's essentially just randomly naming your campaigns just based on how you feel. Now, this usually isn't a problem if you have less than 10 campaigns, because you'll typically remember what all of these campaigns are. However, if you do have more than 10 campaigns, or if you have a bad memory like I do, then it's just not possible to randomly name campaigns and know exactly what the intention of that campaign is. So for example, a low bid auto campaign is going to have a different intention to a main keyword exact campaign. So understanding what each campaign is super important. So in my opinion, the best nomenclature or the best naming convention is the one that is easiest for you to understand. However, with that being said, this is the one that I use, and maybe if you don't have a standardized nomenclature, you can just go ahead and take this one. So I use product identifier, ad type, campaign type, and then where I got the keywords from. So for example, I would have running shoes, sponsor product, exact, and helium 10. So if you don't have that there already, what I would suggest doing is going into all of your campaigns. Well, firstly, creating a standardized nomenclature. Maybe you want to use mine, or maybe you come and think of your own. But no matter what, just go in and change your campaigns based on this, so you have a lot more organization within your ad manager. So mistake number 5, negating performing keywords. Now, people talk about harvesting keywords and how you can use auto and broad for this. However, I'm not really a big fan of this, to be honest. Just because a keyword performs well in one campaign doesn't mean that it's going to perform well in another. So we don't know how Amazon's bidding for this particular search term within broad and auto. So it's very difficult to replicate what's going on in that auto campaign in, say, for example, an exact match campaign. Also, generally speaking, the cost per click CPCs for auto campaigns and broad match campaigns are lower than exact match campaigns. So actually what I do is, rather than negating the performing search terms and using that to harvest into a new campaign, I actually negate out all of the underperforming search terms. So either search terms that have a high ACOS or are generating clicks and spend without any sales. And that's going to leave us with a nicely pruned campaign with only the performing search terms within it, and it's going to result in a very good ACOS. So what I would suggest doing from now is, rather than harvesting search terms from auto and broad campaigns, actually just negate the underperforming keywords or search terms, so you have a well-pruned campaign that has a good ACOS. Just stick with what's working. So yeah, that's everything. The 5 most common PPC mistakes that I see, which is having too many keywords within a campaign, making adjustments too quickly, always aiming for number 1 placement, not using standardized nomenclature, and negating performing keywords. And hopefully I've given you the tools now to identify these mistakes within your campaigns and how you can remedy those mistakes. So yeah, that's everything for this video. Hopefully knowing these common mistakes and how to avoid them or prevent them will help you in the future and potentially prevent you from running into the same issues. If you'd like to have a step-by-step process and many more processes and systems for how to optimize your PPC the way that agencies and the aggregators do, then you can click the link below. Full transparency, it will direct you to a VSL. I will be trying to sell you something, so if you don't want to be sold, then just don't click on the link. But yeah, that's everything for the video. I hope you took some value, and if you did, consider subscribing. And if you have any questions relating to the video or for any future videos, then just leave a comment below. Thank you so much for staying to the end, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care.